Okay, so once you have your file created, this process is going to be the same for any file you create for preparing it for our Westcott Plasma table with an iCNC performance controller. So we're going to ready this for CAM. So we're going to go from the CAM side of the software and click this arrow to move over to the CAM side of the software. And when we do, your options up here are going to change a little bit. And what you're actually going to see down here are your cut paths with your lead ins, lead outs, and everywhere that it's going to cut. So we're going to come up here across CAM actions, and the first thing we're going to do is go to our project settings, and we are going to set, the only thing we're worried about is our workpiece size, and we're going to set our workpiece size to the size of material that we have on our table. I'm just going to say I have a 24 by 24 inch sheet. The material type does not matter, the thickness does not matter for our purposes, because we will take care of all of those settings on the controller on the machine. So I'm going to hit apply, and if I zoom out, you're going to see that that would have changed. Here's my piece size, this red box here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is come across to the next setting here, the plasma settings. And what is critical for us, because we are going to load this into other software on our machine, which is going to do our offset for our curve, we want the software here to cut right on our lines. We don't want to offset it. So we are going to make sure that the kerf width right here says 0. And that's critical for us and our table. If you were doing this on another table, you would want to set all of your speeds and feeds and leave your kerf alone here, but we need it to be 0 so that we don't offset from our line, because the other software that we will load it into on our table will take care of our offset. So make sure this kerf width says 0 and check that in. Now if we zoom in here on our internal cuts, you're going to see our lead in, and that's these curved lines with this little pierce point. All right. In this software, we can edit our lead-ins, and we can edit them very easily. What we do is we click on this point, and if we want to move our lead-in, we just click and drag this point and drop it, and it will go to where we put it. We can also change the arc by, if we're clicked on this end point of our lead-in, we can come out here on the other end point and click and drag, and you can see we can modify our arc to put our lead-in wherever we would want it to be. So we want to get our lead in out in the middle of our open space of our cutout, get it in the biggest area and keep it away from our edges. So this lead in on our M looks good, and so we want to methodically go through and check all of our lead ins, zooming in and out. This one on our A, this lead in is too close to our cut line, so we don't like that. So I'm going to come up here to this end point, and I'm just going to drag it over this way. And by simply doing that, I get my pierce point, which is out here at this end, in the center of my A. All right. Left click and drag is pan. This N looks good. My G is pretty close. I'm going to drag it up a little bit to get it in there. And I'm just methodically going through these. I'll drag my D up a little bit and my O up a little bit. And my N looks good down here. As I come down here to my G, I might drag this around this way a little bit more, and then I can take this and I can make my arc real shallow. I can make it real steep. Somewhere just out there in the middle is good. Now, I do have these 3 small cutouts on my A, G, and D. Those 3 cutouts are cutouts that we're going to have a really hard time fitting a lead in, and they may actually end up being too small to really realistically cut. What we're going to do is we're going to drag this lead in around, we're going to put it over here on this side, and then I'm going to change the type of lead in from an arc to a line. And I'm going to go to line, and I'm going to click on this, and then that will change this to an arc. All right, and if I take this arc and this line, I can click on that end point, and now I can drag this up and shorten it up and put it right in the middle there. And what you're going to see is if I come over here and look, this line, this lead in is only 30 thousandths of an inch long. Now, I don't think that it changes my letter A very much to delete this. So if I want to delete this, I just come back over to my CAD side, zoom in on that section of my A, drag a box around it, and hit the delete key. Did that make my A look worse or better? That's up to you. And if you want to try to cut it, just understand it may not quite cut it out right, or it might. If you delete it, you don't like that, you can always undo with Control Z, go back to your cam side, and you can adjust these. Now, my G is a little bit bigger here. I do think that it looks a little bit better with my G having that, so I'm going to change that to a line. If I click away, it changes it to a line. I click back on it, and then I'm going to click on it, and then come down here and get my endpoint, get it to turn green. And I'm going to put that back in there. And again, that's a 43 thousandths lead in. So that's a little bit bigger lead in. It's a little bit bigger hole there. So I'm going to make it work. And we're going to go ahead and try to cut it with this. And we'll see how it comes out. I'm going to finish up these last couple. Make that a line. And if I give it a second to update, it updates. Drag it back in. Put it there. 44 thousandths. And we're good. Don't forget to check where your lead in on your exterior profile is and make sure that that exterior profile lead in isn't in a bad spot up in somewhere like that. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to hit cancel. Now that all of my lead ins are good, all right, all we have left to do then is export to Gcode. And so we will run Gcode on our machine. It will load this Gcode. So we're going to come up here to create Gcode file. We're going to click it. We're going to get a flash drive. We're going to navigate to that flash drive. I'm going to save mine to the desktop because I don't have a flash drive plugged in, but you're going to go to the removable disk, name it, name tag underscore your initials, and then save it. And that will generate a .cnc file.